Welcome to the channel. Today we will explore a remarkable revelation from actor Troy Donahue, a cinema icon of the 50s and 60s. At the age of 65, he suddenly shared about two famous gay actors he secretly dated during the prejudiced Hollywood era. This is a rare story, revealing the hidden private lives of stars from the golden age. Who are they, and why did everything have to be kept secret for so many years? Let's find out right away. Do you know anyone in showbiz who had to hide their gender identity because of social prejudice? If so, comment number 1. If not, comment number 0. Enjoy the video. Don't forget to leave a sub to support the channel to continue sharing interesting stories about old Hollywood. This is the story of a man who lived, loved, and fought to find himself. Troy Donahue, born Merle Johnson Jr., was born on January 27, 1936 in New York City. Imagine a boy growing up in a well-off but conflicted family. Troy's father was a senior executive at General Motors, a stern, practical man who dreamed of a stable future for his son. He wanted Troy to pursue an office job, perhaps in the auto industry, where he had spent his entire life building a career. But Troy's mother had a different dream. She was a stage actress who once aspired to stardom, but her dreams were dashed. Unable to achieve fame herself, she pinned all her hopes on her son, encouraging him to pursue performing arts from a very young age. Can you feel that pressure? On one side is a father with pragmatic expectations. On the other side is a mother with burning artistic dreams. And in the middle is Troy, a young man torn between two worlds, unsure which path is truly his. Troy grew up well-educated, attending prestigious schools. He studied journalism at Columbia University, a choice that seemed to fit his father's wishes. But Troy's heart wasn't in journalism or articles. He was drawn to the spotlight, the big screen, the idea of living in a world where emotions were larger than life. Hollywood was calling, and Troy couldn't resist. He left New York his Columbia studies and pursued his own dream. Perhaps it was the dream his mother had planted in his childhood, a dream of light stages and endless applause. Troy Donahue, then Merle Johnson Jr., was an ordinary boy growing up in New York with a striking appearance, ideal height, and gentle classical beauty. But to go from an unknown boy to the ambitious universe of Hollywood, he needed something special. And that moment came when Henry Wilson, a famous manager, walked into his life. Henry had discovered names like Rock Hudson Tab Hunter. He had the ability to turn strangers into superstars. When he saw Merle, he knew he had found a diamond in the rough. Henry was not just a career guide. He was an image maker. The first thing he did was to change Merle's name to Troy Donahue, a name that was both strong and seductive, with the sound of the ocean and romance. From that moment on, Troy was no longer an ordinary boy. He became a character, a symbol carefully built to suit the tastes of the public at that time. Audiences who were fascinated with the image of America's golden boy, tall, polite, sensitive, and always on the side of love. With his golden hair and deep blue eyes, Troy began to be noticed by film studios as a potential next generation. His big break came in 1959 when Warner Brothers cast Troy in the romantic drama A Summer Place opposite Sandra Dee. The film was more than just a teenage love story. It was a reflection of a time filled with emotional turmoil and social norms. The scene of Troy and Sandra standing on the beach looking at each other with longing and love became an iconic symbol of youthful emotion. At the same time, the film's theme song, Theme from a Summer Place, was played on the radio, cementing Troy's image as a symbol of pure but fierce love. After the film's huge success, Troy Donahue shot to stardom. He was on the covers of major magazines, his name was plastered across television at movie premieres and at high-profile events. Hollywood had officially welcomed a new idol, a man who combined handsomeness, fragility, and vulnerability to captivate millions of female audiences. But behind that perfect exterior was a carefully planned journey where the image was created as a work of art, by the hands of Henry Wilson under the name Troy Donahue and through his fateful role in A Summer Place. It was not only a personal success, but also the opening chapter of a brilliant and also turbulent career. Troy Donahue became the idol of millions of girls across America. Imagine being a teenage girl in the 1950s clutching a copy of Photoplay or Teen Beat with Troy's face on the cover. You would fantasize about him writing long handwritten letters to Warner Brothers where Troy received thousands of fan letters every week. It was the height of fame, but also the beginning of unimaginable pressure. In the early 1960s, Troy's career took off. He starred in a series of hit films such as Parish, 1961, Susan Slade, 1961, Rome Adventure, 1962, and Palm Springs Weekend, 1963. In these films, Troy was always cast as the romantic, good-natured guy, sometimes a little melancholy, but always charming. It was an image that fit perfectly with Kennedy-era America, a time filled with optimism before the darkness of the Vietnam War and social upheaval enveloped it. Troy became a generational icon, the guy every girl wanted to date and every guy wanted to be. He received more fan mail than most actors at Warner Brothers, and his name was everywhere from photoplay to modern screen. But the glamour, as we'll see, didn't last forever. As the 1960s drew to a close, Hollywood began to change. Do you think old Hollywood stars like Troy Donahue should have been allowed to be themselves without fear of losing their careers? If you support openness in showbiz today, comment "freedom" below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video to support us in continuing to tell the stories that few people dared to tell in the past. Socially charged films with complex, rebellious, and sometimes dark characters became the new norm. Stars like Troy, with their flawless looks and clean-cut style, suddenly looked out of place. Studios wanted anti-heroes characters with strong personalities who broke the rules. Troy, with his established image, no longer fit this new mold. After the spotlight, Troy Donahue's roles began to dry up. Tastes changed. Hollywood transformed, and the golden boy image he once represented gradually became outdated. Stop and think. Have you ever felt left behind as the world changed so quickly? For Troy, it wasn't just a career decline, it was a loss of direction in his own identity. As audiences forgot his name, his contracts dried up. Troy struggled to survive in an industry that no longer needed him. In an attempt to find an escape, alcohol became a refuge. At first, it was just a few drinks to relieve stress, but it quickly took over Troy's life. Relationships fell apart, his health declined, and his finances were in tatters. At one point, Troy, once admired by millions, was homeless, living in his car. It was the dark side of fame, the very thing that had once lifted him to the top, was now the very thing that had dragged him down. The contrast is heartbreaking, from the glittering premieres, the loud cheers, to the cold nights alone in the parking lot. All that remains are memories. But that is what makes Troy's story so heartbreaking. It is not just a story of a star's fall from grace, but also a reminder of the fragility of fame and the invisible pressures that lie beneath the surface of perfection. Amid those dark years, Troy's personal life was also tumultuous. Unfulfilled relationships, unspoken secrets, and a quiet struggle to recover made his journey all the more complicated and human. Troy Donahue was an icon for a generation, but also a mirror to the harsh realities of Hollywood, where the spotlight may shine brightly, but the price is not always affordable. He was married 4 times, and each marriage left emotional scars. His first marriage to actress Suzanne Pleshette was a classic Hollywood love story. They met on the set of Rome Adventure in 1964, both rising stars. Their chemistry was fierce both on and off screen. Just months later, they were married, and the press dubbed them Hollywood's golden couple. But the marriage only lasted 9 months. The pressures of fame, combined with Troy's personal struggles, including his growing dependence on alcohol, tore them apart. Can you imagine a couple admired by the world, but behind closed doors there were arguments, misunderstandings, and eventually a separation? Before Suzanne, Troy dated Lily Cardell, a Swedish-American actress and model. Troy Donahue's first public relationship ended in a scandal that shook Hollywood. His fiancée, Lily, unexpectedly filed a lawsuit accusing Troy of abuse during their engagement. Although the lawsuit did not result in criminal charges, the damage to his reputation was irreparable. The media quickly swarmed with tabloids and television exploiting the story as a tragic undoing of America's golden boy. Troy's innocent, polished image, carefully crafted by the studios, began to crack. To the public, the shock was like discovering a large crack in the statue of an idol they had once admired. After the scandal, Troy tried to restore his image by stabilizing his personal life. He married actress Valerie Allen in 1966, a name familiar to television audiences at the time. Valerie was not only beautiful, but also highly regarded for her talent and maturity, which many hoped would create a positive counterbalance to Troy. In early photos together, they seemed like the perfect couple, smiling, elegant, and full of potential. But the real life behind those glamorous photos was not simple. Unhealed psychological wounds from the past, combined with the pressure of fame and a declining career, began to strain the relationship. After just 2 years, the marriage ended in divorce, filed by Valerie herself. The legal document cited cruelty, a harsh term, but not uncommon in celebrity divorces. Though no details were disclosed publicly, insiders said that Troy, who was struggling with alcoholism and emotional instability at the time, became uncontrollable. Every time he tried to build a family, his past and unresolved wounds would drag him back into the dark. The story is not only a personal tragedy, but also a testament to the fragility of relationships when placed in the harsh vortex of fame and social expectations. Not giving up hope. Troy entered into his third marriage to Alma Sharp in 1969. Alma was not a celebrity. She was an executive secretary living out of the limelight. The marriage did not receive much media attention, but for Troy, it was a sincere attempt to find something more real, more simple behind all the noise. In Alma, he found the stability he had always lacked. Someone who did not care about fame, did not care about Hollywood, but just wanted a peaceful life. Although not mentioned much in the public eye, Alma was an important part of Troy's healing journey. However, that peace did not last. The marriage ended quietly after a short time when Troy could not overcome his deep-seated personal turmoil. The failure of all 3 marriages, each with different expectations and contexts, made it clear that Troy Donahue, despite his fame, his handsomeness, and his millions of admirers, was still a man in intense internal struggle. He longed to love and be loved, but his past, his pressures, and his traumas led him to repeat cycles of self-destruction. In this personal tragedy, we see not only a fading Hollywood star, but also a portrait of a vulnerable human being caught between light and darkness. But even the simplicity that Alma provided was not enough to save everything. They divorced in 1972 after 3 years of marriage, when Troy's alcoholism and struggles with everyday life made it impossible for him to maintain stability. His final marriage to Vicki Taylor from 1979 to 1981 ended quickly. Vicki barely left a public mark, and their relationship was said to be tumultuous. 4 marriages, 4 failures, each a search for love and peace, but Troy could not escape loneliness and the darkness of his soul. But Troy's story isn't all darkness. In his later years, he found light, and those moments were truly touching. One of the most important people during this period was Jen Chow, a Chinese-American mezzo-soprano opera singer known for her soulful voice and captivating stage presence. Jen came into Troy's life in his later years after he had already suffered a great deal of loss. Troy and Jen's relationship was not tied to marriage, but to those close to him, she brought him a rare sense of peace. After years of turmoil, failure, and loneliness, Troy had finally found a true companion, someone who didn't care about his past glory, but loved him for who he was. It's what we all want. At some point, a relationship with no strings attached, no pressure, just understanding and acceptance. But there was another surprise in Troy's life, a touching human moment. He discovered he had a son, Sean, from a brief relationship in 1969. For years, Troy had been completely unaware of his existence. When they met again, Sean was a grown man. That reunion, though belated, was one of the most precious moments of Troy's life. He had shared his regrets about his past, and the chance to be a father even at the end of his life made him feel more complete, a light at the end of the tunnel after all those years of being lost. Now, we come to the most shocking part of the story, the part that the video title alludes to. In the 1990s, as Hollywood began to confront its history of silence about the LGBTQ community, Troy Donahue bravely shared a big secret. He revealed that as a young man, he had romantic relationships with 2 famous gay Hollywood actors, Anthony Perkins and Rock Hudson. These relationships had to be kept secret because in the 1950s, coming out as gay could not only ruin a career, but also ruin a life. Picture the scene. Hollywood is a giant control machine where studios dictate everything from how you dress to how you talk to who you're allowed to date. Troy and Anthony Perkins meet at a Hollywood party in the late 1950s. Troy, with his Apollo-like good looks, and Perkins, with his charming sensibilities, are instantly attracted to each other. They have to meet secretly at the homes of trusted friends or drive to the beach at night just to talk and listen to the waves.
I think the girls with their nails done now.
Troy once said of Perkins, "There's a tenderness about him. He knows what it's like to live behind a mask." Do you sense the sadness in those words? A true love, rejected by the world, forced to hide. With Rock Hudson, it's a different story. Rock is the epitome of masculinity, the man America considers perfect, tall, strong, always paired with beautiful actresses. But Troy reveals that in their private moments they shared a deep understanding. Rock faced more pressure than anyone, Troy says. He was a larger-than-life star. If he let it out, his whole world would come crashing down. Their moments together were brief, but meaningful. It wasn't just love, it was empathy between two men forced to hide who they were. They were men America admired, but who lived in constant fear. These revelations are not meant to shock or attract attention. Troy shares them with honesty as a way to reclaim a part of himself that he has buried for decades. He is not just telling his own story. He is speaking for a generation that has been silenced: Anthony Perkins, Rock Hudson, and countless others. All of them live in fear of exposure, judgment, or destruction. When Troy shares these stories, he speaks not only of love, but also of the injustice of a system that forces people to live a lie. His words are a reminder that behind the glamour are real people with hearts that yearn for love and acceptance. After years of battling addiction, financial ruin, and a fading career, Troy began to find himself again. He joined Alcoholics Anonymous, and with the support of those around him, he successfully got clean. This was a huge turning point, a testament to the power of will and determination. Troy not only overcame his addiction, he found a new purpose in life. He began to appear again, although he was no longer the star he once was. He landed guest roles on TV shows like The Love Boat and Chips, and even had a comedic cameo in 1990's Cry Baby, a John Waters film that made Troy part of a nostalgic throwback to the 50s. Troy also became a regular at nostalgia conventions where he met fans who grew up watching his movies. There, he didn't just sign autographs or pose for pictures. He listens to the stories of fans who say his films changed their lives or brought joy to their youth. Troy embraces these moments with humility and humor, always ready to laugh at himself. See a man who has been at the top, lost it all, still retains warmth and gratitude for those who loved him. Finally, we come to the end of Troy's life, a sad but meaningful chapter. On August 30th, 2001, Troy Donahue suffered a massive heart attack at his apartment in Santa Monica, California. He was rushed to St. John's Medical Center, where doctors performed emergency surgery to open a blocked artery and restore blood flow. For the first few hours, the signs seemed positive. Troy's family, friends, and fans waited with bated breath. Everyone hoped that he would once again overcome adversity, as he had done throughout his turbulent life. Fate, however, was not so forgiving. Just hours later, Troy suffered a second heart attack, this time much more severe. Faced with this situation, the medical team decided to perform open-heart surgery, a serious procedure to restore blood flow around severely damaged arteries. Despite their best efforts, Troy's body, after 2 cardiac arrests and a major surgery, was too exhausted to recover. On September 2, 2001, Troy Donahue breathed his last at the age of 65 in the hospital, surrounded by his loved ones. News of his death quickly spread, moving many people, especially the audience who idolized the blonde, sad-eyed boy, the symbol of Hollywood beauty in the 1960s. His passing seemed to close a beautiful but tragic chapter in the history of American cinema. Troy's life has been a colorful journey, from a naive teenager entering the entertainment world to an idol star admired by millions, to gradually sinking into addiction, failure, and oblivion. But no matter what, he remains an icon, not only because of his charm on screen, but also because of his relentless effort to find himself even at the last minute. And perhaps that is Troy Donahue's true legacy. But he rose again, found himself, and left a legacy that was not just about his acting, but also about his courage to be true to himself. He was a man who loved, who suffered, who failed, and who ultimately found peace. When you think of Troy Donahue, I want you to remember him, not just as a teen idol with blonde hair and a charming smile, but as a human being. A man who faced his demons, fought against societal expectations, and found meaning in the simplest things: love, family, and honesty. His story reminds us that behind every spotlight is a beating heart with real dreams, fears, and desires. And perhaps the greatest lesson Troy leaves us with is to be true to ourselves no matter what the world tries to force us to hide. Before I close, let me share one final thought. Many of us, especially those who lived through our 50s and 60s, can relate to Troy's story. Maybe you've dreamed of a different life, faced pressure from family or society, or had to hide parts of yourself. Throughout his life, Troy Donahue reminds us that it's never too late to find yourself, to love yourself, and to be true to yourself. He wasn't perfect, but he was genuine, and that's what made him so special. Thank you for watching until the end of the video. Troy Donahue's story not only reveals little-known secrets about old Hollywood, but also emphasizes the courage to live truthfully in a time of prejudice. If you find the video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on upcoming exclusive behind-the-scenes stories. See you in the next video.